Greetings, this is Jim Lindsay, and this is a lesson about privacy concerns from material that's presented on pages 373 through 383 of the textbook. In these pages right here, I have slides that you can print out and take notes on, as well as there's a link to an article from Forbes that I will encourage you to take a look at. So let's get started. Okay, we're talking about privacy, and essentially privacy is your ability to not have others learn information about you unless you want them to. And it's the end of chapter 9. It's this last little section of chapter 9, and what they do, they present you with some information saying like, hey, did you know that information about you is stored in a variety of different databases? And some of those databases are corporate databases, and other databases are like government databases. And what they're trying to do is inform you about ways in which you might potentially have others learn about you and learn details about you that might be concerning. And so what I would ask you to think about is basically, as you look at these pages, and it starts on page 373, and this extends through page 378. So 373 through 378, that's where you essentially learn this information. What sort of stuff do they keep about customers and marketing databases, and what sort of information do they keep about citizens and government databases, and how is it collected? How is that data used? And I think what you'll find with the marketing databases, most of the time we provide that to them. When we buy things, and specifically how we buy things, it will determine to a large degree how much information companies learn about us. If you're buying things with any sort of credit card or debit card, you're basically leaving a trail, and you're allowing them to keep track of what you bought on this particular date. And so if you're uncomfortable with that, then the solution is basically to always use cash. And so with the government databases, with what's stored there, that's stuff like census information, that's stuff like when you get a social security card or when you get a driver's license. There's really not anything you can do about that as far as opting out of that sort of information. And it's not anything new. It's stuff that the government offices have collected about citizens for decades and decades. It's just that now that databases are now online, instead of being in file cabinets in courthouses spread out across the nation, now if somebody has malicious intent, they can basically look at, through computer networks, look at information about an individual and from various different open records, and then start to piece together sort of a dossier or a profile. They can electronically profile a person based on that open record information, and that's as a result of that, governments are starting to make changes to what they keep track of and how they keep track of it and what they consider to be open information. So improvements are being made, but the creation of computer networks and the ability to put together information about individuals has caused that change to start to take place. And so that's what's introduced in these first several pages, from 373 up through about 378. Okay, so we've talked about this. What is this electronic profiling? I would now encourage you to jump on over to that Target article. It's from Forbes magazine. And this is not a new article, but it's very interesting. Let me jump to here. I love using this case in class because it gets people's attention. And basically, as you read through this, I'd ask you to consider, how does Target, because essentially what this headline says it, Target basically can figure out based on your buying patterns, with a great degree of accuracy, whether a customer is pregnant or not. And how is that possible? And so as a shareholder of Target, would their ability to do that, would that make you happy, or would that would you not like that? And why? And I hope that and Target is by no means is not the only company that does this. Kroger does this, and we get in line to do it. We want our Kroger card because by using our Kroger card, we then get discounts on the gasoline prices that we get at Kroger. So this is just part of today's society, but I want to make sure that you are aware of as it talks about in the book, these marketing databases, and this is a great example of one being used, and then how that affects the bottom line of Target. Obviously, Target when they first started doing this, they made some mistakes, but I think they've recovered from those nicely, and basically they're really making a really good profit based on how they use this sort of information now. That initially they kind of made some mistakes, but now they've improved. So that's information I wanted to share with you, and I hope you will enjoy that. Okay, so here are the questions which I would ask you to be able to answer about Target, if we were in a face-to-face setting. The last part of this little snippet, basically from about page 378 to 383, it talks about a variety of different ways in which your activities can be surveilled or watched and monitored, primarily at work. And how do you feel about that? And it talks about presence technology. It talks about video cameras. It talks about why companies use that, and sometimes they're required to do that, and what do you think about that? And so this is all presented on these pages. What I think is interesting is as I've taught this over a number of years, watching students, I think people have gotten to where they just when I first started teaching, man, this really bugged people, but now people don't care so much. It's become so common that people don't care about cameras, being in, like, we have cameras in our classroom. People have cameras on their doorstep. How many times did you get on social media today and see videos of people saying, like, hey, this guy stole this package from my doorstep today? I mean, it's very common. And so just as a matter, because we're talking about privacy, they want you to be aware of this. This present technology is really cool stuff. Essentially, as an employer, I think you would probably want to consider using this. It's an ability to basically see where your employees are, and you can go off of technology that's built into their phones or in their badges, similar to the unauthorized access and use lesson where we talked about a possessed object. With the possessed object, you can see whether someone's in their cubicle or not. Are they at their delivery truck and doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's stuff that basically, as an employer, you're probably going to want to keep an eye on people. And then you have a responsibility. Once you collect data, you need to collect it safely and keep it secure, and then basically take care of it. Here are some bullet comments about presence technology. So I think the book also does a good job on page 382 talking about your responsibility as an employee, knowing what your employer is going to do. They're supposed to tell you, and so once you agree to that, then you have to play by those rules. And so when you work somewhere, there's going to be some sort of policy, especially when you in process, when you get the job, when you're going to go through your human resource training. They're going to say, like, hey, this is the stuff we're going to do. We'll be able to monitor your computer. We'll be able to tell where you are based on where your badge is and in relation to your cubicle, that sort of stuff. So just pay attention to that. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, then just keep moving. Find some other place to work, or start your own company. So this is a real easy chapter. It's real short thing. So I wanted to cover this with you real fast. But that is the end of chapter 9 there. So thank you for your time and attention.